this meeting to order. Olivia, roll call.
Ms. Anderson,
Present.
Mrs. Berrigan,
Here.
Mrs. Sanborn,
Present.
Mrs. Ward,
Present.
Dr. Watkins.
Present.
All right, you could stand for the Pledge of Allegiance for a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. It is recommended the governing board approve the agenda as submitted. So, move.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the motion.
So move. Second.
Who was the first one?
Susan?
Okay.
Thank you for second.
Okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. All right, moving on to the elections of the governing board president and the governing board clerk. Do I have any nominations for governing board
Hi, I'm
president
Jessica Rudd.
for the 2021 calendar year? Any nominations for president?
I nominate Jill Barrington.
Okay, are there any other nominations? All right, all those in favor of Ms. Berrigan being the governing board president for school year 2021?
Aye.
Aye.
Ms. Anderson?
Yes.
You need a second for that motion. Second.
Dr. Watkins seconds it. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. All right, do you have any nominations for the election of the governing board clerk for the 2021 calendar year?
I'd like to nominate Susan Sanborn.
I second that nomination.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Right. All righty.
Can I ask just, as I am short of breath and still on oxygen tonight, Michelle, will you continue to run tonight's meeting?
Yes.
Thank you so much, and Susan, thank you for the nomination, Dr. Watkins the second, and it's been an honor to serve as president in the past, and I'm certainly honored to do so again, and thank you all.
Thank you.
Can you guys see me? I can see you, but I don't know if you can see me.
No, we can just hear you.
Okay, all right, well, that's probably better.
All right. Okay, so it's recommended the governing board approve the minutes of the December 10th, 2020 public hearing and regular meeting. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
All those in favor? And then moving on to the superintendent's report. Dr. Sprout.
Thank you. Ms. Anderson. Well, Happy New Year, first of all, to everyone. Welcome to the governing board. Dr. Watkins, it's great to have you. Congratulations to Jill Berrigan and to Susan Sanborn. First, Dutch Brothers has made a $10,000 donation to the Levine Education Foundation. Former Vista teacher Shannon Scott, who now works up in the Pacific Northwest in Portland, Ford Dutch Brothers selected the foundation as a recipient for the grant, and the funds will be used for college and post-secondary school scholarships for former Levine students. So thank you, Dutch Bros. The Levine Lions once again provided holiday baskets to 45 families in need. Each school provided a list of 5 families who were in need of additional help this season. The baskets included food, toiletries, and gifts for their children. The Levine Lions Club also pledged $1,500 to help send 3 Rogers Ranch students to attend the National Junior Honor Society Conference next November in Washington, D.C. So thank you for thank you to the Levine Lions for their incredible support of our district. Congratulations to teacher Codalie Kendall, who received her National Board certification. This is the highest certificate an educator can achieve in the United States. The process for obtaining a National Board certification is extremely rigorous and requires teachers to showcase the National Board standards in their practice. It takes 3 to 5 years of continual work to achieve this certification. And let's give Codalie a round of applause. Our child nutrition department staff continue to provide free meals for children over winter break. Meal bundles containing 5 days worth of breakfast, lunch, dinner, and snacks were distributed on December 23rd to 400 children and on December 30th to 430 children. This amounts to 4,150 breakfasts, lunches, dinners, and snacks to our community. So thank you to our child nutrition team. Our new middle school building, which replaced our old modular buildings at Cheatham, has been completed. The new building contains 10 classrooms, interior corridors, and restrooms, and it is absolutely a beautiful building, and it will add value to our school, to our district, to our students, and to our community. And speaking of that, this was funded through bonds that have been approved by our community, and so we thank our community for their level of support of our district. Next, we have our employees of the month. First, Jordan Medina, classified Special Education Instructional Associate at MC Cash. Ms. Medina is a model treasure hunter in that she seeks out and helps all children find success, and that's part of the Kids at Hope program that you were presented at our last meeting. She always finds the bright side of things and is a champion of Levine. She is patient, kind, and firm. She develops positive relationships with all students in the class and takes time to get to know each one. She strives to learn more about her position and jumps in to support the class any way that she can. Jordan Medina, our classified employee of the month, and let's give her a round of applause. Next, our certified employee of the month, Michelle Ross. Michelle works at Levine Elementary School in the developmental preschool as a teacher. Ms. Ross always has her students' best interests at heart. She supports them academically, socially, and emotionally. She also makes sure that families have what they need to help their child, and that has been especially evident during their virtual learning period. And she is very proactive in communicating with parents and families. Ms. Ross participates in numerous activities in support of her students, such as the drive-through trick-or-treat event that took place this fall. I had an opportunity to visit her class this week, and bottom line, she is an outstanding teacher who is making a huge difference in students' lives as they begin their time in public education. Michelle Ross, our certified employee of the month. Let's give her a round of applause. Next, we have our classroom spotlight presented by Desert Meadows, and I will invite Principal J.P. Ketchum up to get the classroom spotlight started.
Thank you. Good evening, members of the governing board, Dr. Strout, and guests. Thank you for the opportunity to present our spotlight this evening. And tonight we will be highlighting some of the exciting and engaging online instruction our teachers are providing at Desert Meadows. Although the last 10 months have been challenging as we've dealt with the pandemic, our teachers and staff have embraced this challenge and are continuing to provide outstanding instruction and educational opportunities for our students. In the video we are about to show you, you will hear from three Desert Meadows teachers and see a brief snapshot of how they engage their students virtually on a typical day. Teachers at Meadows and across the district have been working very hard to ensure that we are giving the students the best education possible. It has been truly amazing to watch teachers grow and students grow as we adapt to these changes. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jessica Russell, kindergarten teacher here at Desert Meadows. I am enjoying using our online teaching platform to work with the students and really grow their knowledge of so many different things. We're working with Spalding and reading and math. In our Spalding, we often will write words on our boards, sounding everything out, and then putting it into practice when we come to our reading class and we're able to make sentences. The students have adapted really well to sharing their work and their ideas, and their energy and enthusiasm is hard to beat. It's really great time.
Okay, now Kalia had said wakes up. Can we do that? Wakes. Wakes. Let's stretch that. Whoa.
W.
You got it. Nice job, love. Whoa. A. What says A?
A for alligator.
A for alligator. You got it. A. Let's write A there. What says
K.
K goes in the middle of a word. Nice job. K.
Hi, my name is Adrienne Henderson Cole, and I'm a first grade teacher at Desert Meadows. The lesson was about how can I use place value, and they were for the first time being exposed to their understanding of what a 10 is. Okay, now I want you to think about it. If you have these groups over here, and then some extras over here, do you know what number that is? Do you all know what number is that? Okay, Anthony, you can be next. You don't know what number is that?
38. I put in the numbers at the bottom.
Good. You put the numbers at the bottom.
Yeah.
Okay, Anthony, how many groups of 10 did she have?
3.
3. And then how many more ones did she have? Jovan, how many more ones did she have?
8.
8. So what was the easier to figure this out? What did you have to count by, okay, Anthony?
10s?
Right. Well, why can't I do this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Why don't I want to do that?
That's something that kindergarten and preschool do. We're not kindergarten or preschool, we're in first grade.
Right. James, why shouldn't we count every little circle on the paper?
Because if you count all the circles, it's gonna take all of our time and it's gonna take too long.
Who agrees with James that it just takes a long time? It's not efficient. You want to be efficient. Joseph, do you have something to add to what he said?
If it's already a 10, you should know that it's a 10 already.
Right, which goes right with what James said. You should be 10, 20, 30, and then you just count the ones that are left over.
Yeah, and so saying what's 10 plus 10 plus 10?
Right. And you should know how to count by 10s. Who knows how to count by 10s?
10, 15, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100.
Hello, my name is Monica Abadrabo and I teach 3rd grade at Desert Meadows Elementary. During this time of distance learning, I found it's very important to create lessons that are meaningful and engaging for students. I also make sure to embed a snippet of the story within the question to refer back to the text. All right, so we're going to do breakout rooms with our groups. Let me explain what we're going to do first. I see some of you guys jumping on already, so that's good. So this is a photo and caption T-chart. On the left side, you're gonna say what the photo shows. And then on the right side, you're gonna say what the caption tells you. You're going to work as a group, talk about it first. 1 will start, 2 will go next, then 3, and then 4. And then you guys will type in your answer.
Okay, so what I typed was the grandfather always tells the boy his life story and his dance story. So I'm gonna put is the boy always asks us the grandfather. The dad is telling 2 different stories. The one about like how he got his name. I am learning so much
much online. Thank you for teaching me, teachers.
That concludes our superintendent's report. Thank you, Desert Meadows.
Thank you. Alright, we have no call to public or agenda items, so we'll move on to the consent agenda. Do I have a motion for to approve the consent agenda items as submitted?
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Do I have a motion the governing board approve providing paid sick leave benefits as outlined for the time period of January 1st, 2021 to March 5th, 2021?
Motion.
I'll second.
Seconds, or first, any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, any comments from the board? Alrighty.
Welcome, Dr. Watkins. Amazing Desert Meadows spotlight made me smile, and I definitely needed a smile today. Thank you.
We're back again. Here we are, another year. Let's hope it's better than the next year. Any comments?
For the principals here, I look forward to meeting with you soon to come by your schools and to get my thoughts on what you guys are doing. I'm really pleased so far what I've seen from a distance. I'm looking forward to more intertwined with you guys.
Ms. Berrigan, do you have any comments?
I do, just, wishing I was certainly there with you all tonight. I am recovering and I know I will be bouncing back here pretty soon. But really just want to take the opportunity to thank all of our staff that are there and that have been there and continue to make sure our students stay safe and learning lives. And I just want to encourage everybody to stay safe. I can guess how I caught this. And it is pretty crazy, so just keep yourselves safe and healthy. If you feel unwell, just go and see a doctor. Don't wait as long as I did.
Good, thank you, Ms. Berrigan, and also Happy New Year to everybody. I hope you guys had a restful break, and I just want to thank you all for giving me the opportunity to be president this past year. So thank you to Susan for welcome to being the clerk and Jill Berrigan for president. So busy year ahead of us, I'm sure. All right, we have some call to public regarding non-agenda items. Do you have the paragraph before it? Is there anything I need to take into account? Thank you. All right, so the call to public is on a regular board agenda to provide everyone the opportunity to be heard. The governing board understands the importance of communication with the public and welcomes and values your comments, concerns, input, and praise. The governing board cannot comment or answer issues brought up to the call to public because only items listed on the agenda for discussion or action may be addressed. This does not mean that your comments will be forgotten or that the board does not hear what you think. The governing board president will discuss them with the superintendent, and every effort will be made to answer your questions and or resolve your concerns. Thank you for caring about the children of the Louvain Elementary School District and for taking time out of your busy schedule to address the governing board. So our first call to public is from Ms. Rowe. Our address is 8009 South 51st to 55th Avenue. Group being represented is self-concerned parent. Virtual school to continue for all students. Her comment is this: I am writing this comment to show support for our Levine School District teachers who are risking their lives to educate our children. There has been no right we enjoyed today that was not confronted with protest and the people's voice demanding to be considered over profit and process. This includes our labor rights, farmer rights, women's suffrage, and civil rights movement. The establishment has always proved to be on the wrong side of history and having to come to understand through the perspective of those who are living this experience. This is the time to turn to teachers and find out what they need in this COVID crisis. Sending them to classrooms with our children is not only exposing them to a dangerous situation in their home that can cost them both their livelihood and their lives, but also endangering many of their households that have consolidated, example, grandparents, so they can have the support to continue to teach our children. I urge the district to consider how they would be adding to the crisis if teachers get sick and not only are not able to teach, but not earn a living to provide food, shelter, and safe environments for their own families. It is time we stop giving lip service to teachers about how valuable they are and how much we support them without putting their actions behind it. Our teachers are the backbone of this operation if they are put on the front lines when no one else is doing so. Shame on us for allowing it to happen. And I pray for an uprising that they are fighting for their own liberation to not be disaggregated and ignored in this way. This, by the way, would be a fight I would happily stand with them. Why are we holding on to a system that is oppressive to children and teachers the heart of the operation? Let's problem solve and come up with the ideas that will not harm students or teaching staff. First being staying virtual while we problem solve safer options for everyone involved. Our second call public tonight is from Linda Abeg. Address is 5407 West Winston Drive. Parent district resident. Her comment is this. Good evening. First of all, I want to thank each of you for your dedication and leadership during this crazy year. Despite all of the challenges, Levine has had great organization, has shown great care for the community. Although online learning is not ideal, Levine has made it more doable and effective in many ways. The ones that stand out the most to me are, one, consistent class schedule and structure throughout the district, allowing more consistency for families with multiple children and for children who have to switch teachers. Two, separate teachers for in-person and online students, unlike the many districts that have teachers responsible for online and in-person students at the same time. And three, easy registration for and access to learning labs for those who need the extra assistance. I have not heard of a better method of online learning in public schools than what we have in Levine. That being said, I would like to share here science in support of changing the metrics Levine is using to determine the reopening of schools. The CDC's guidelines support opening before we return to moderate spread in both areas, as do the recent actions taken by Dr. Christ, the director of Arizona's Department of Health, and the governor of Washington State in his new school recommendations. This information has been shared with the governing board via email as well. Since that email to the board, it has also been announced that teachers in Maricopa County will be prioritized for vaccination beginning next week. Vaccine studies show 90% efficacy even after the first dose. I am not opposed to a quarantine period between the holiday and reopening schools, but I do oppose waiting until community numbers change drastically, particularly when the state is implementing no strategy to bring those numbers down. First and foremost, the CDC's indicators for reopening state that whether or not the school is able to implement precautions is one of the prime indicators for reopening on the same level as community spread. With Levine's success in this area, we could open to be following the CDC's guidelines. Below is a quote from the CDC's website, which is the CDC has emphasized with bold print. CDC recommends the use of 3 core indicators. These core indicators include 2 measures of community burden, number of new cases per 100,000 persons in the past 14 days, and percentage of RT-PCR tests that are positive during the last 14 days, and 1 self-assessed measure of school implementation of key mitigation strategies. CDC suggests decision makers use 1 or both of the first core measures of community burden in addition to the 3rd core indicator, the self-assessed measure of school implementation of key mitigation strategies. These key mitigation strategies should be implemented to the largest extent possible. Next, please note that the CDC published site of COVID in children in your email. The research article concluded that compared with children who tested negative for the virus that causes COVID-19, children who test positive were more likely to have attended gatherings and not more likely to have attended childcare or school in person. Another recent development is Dr. Christ, the director of the Arizona Department of Health Services, eliminating the substantial risk category for AZ businesses. She and Governor Ducey believe that when the required mitigation strategies are in place, the spread in these businesses is minimal. So those businesses that follow the guidelines should be able to stay open. The same argument we have been making for schools. Dr. Christ said if the numbers get high enough, other strategies would be implemented before closures. Schools have been shown to present even less risk than businesses like gyms and bars, especially with precautions Levine enforces. So schools should also be allowed to stay open with mitigation strategies like the CDC recommends. My last update is Washington State's recent response to all that has been learned about COVID in schools. The board received a graphic with more details in their email that even in substantial spread conditions like those that we are in, Washington State recommends having lower grades begin in-person learning with smaller class sizes and precautions. I applaud Levine for providing in-person learning for our developmental preschool and self-contained classrooms and hope that we can continue to phase in-person learning for our higher need and youngest students. There's plenty of science and public policy to support in-person learning when precautions can be put in place. I ask you again to please follow the science. Please open schools. Levine had small class sizes and great mitigation strategies when our schools were open. We can open according to the CDC's guidelines. Teachers will have access to vaccines within a matter of days. We should not make our children wait for changes to our community numbers when there is no organized effort to bring those numbers down. Thank you. And thank you for those comments. So with that, a regular meeting of the governing board will be held on February 4th, 2021. All meetings will be held at 5:30 unless otherwise posted in the Levine Education Center located at 5001 West Dobbin, Levine, Arizona. Do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting? After we move to okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And here we will move into our study session on health metrics.
Thank you, Ms. Anderson. Governing board members, we will now move into study session. So the goals of our study session today are to review, first of all, for you, the district's response during the first 2 quarters, the decisions that we made, how we used our community metrics, and the path we went from virtual to hybrid and back to virtual. And then present to you new data that you have not seen yet regarding our school metric data that we collected during the 6 weeks of hybrid learning. Next, I will go over with you an update on where we are here in the 3rd quarter. We started a survey yesterday for our staff, so I have some initial information for you on that. Some recommendations for quarter 3. I have an update for you also on the vaccine. And I would also like to present to you our learning data that we have just collected, and to give you a full picture of where we are as we head into the 3rd quarter, kind of the state of the Levine School District today. So here we go. First of all, these have been our commitments. This goes way back to June as we were entering this process. Primary, first thing that we are concerned about is the safety of our students, staff, and community. And that is followed up immediately by providing an outstanding learning environment for our students. To take care of our staff and our students and their social, emotional wellness, to provide options to parents, and we have work to be driven by data and not setting arbitrary dates in the decisions that we make. I wanted to start this with a few statements that I consider to be very key and summarize where we are as a nation, as educational leaders, and they come from the CDC. And the first is, I think we all agree that we want our schools open as soon as possible. A key word there that is driving these discussions is, what does that mean on the safety end of the spectrum? But know that we do want our kids back on campus, but we are also measuring how do we do that safely. And in order to do that, we have two factors that are driving that process. One is the metrics of our community, and the second is what is happening actually in our schools. How safe is our community, and how safe are our schools? And then finally, keeping that balance of saying, well, we may have high community metrics, but we have mitigation strategies in place. And so that creates another point of tension, balancing our mitigation strategies along with what we are seeing happening in our community. Some dates just to take you back, a little history here. Dr. Watkins, I hope you enjoy this. But back in June, we did approve 4 learning options for our community that we have stuck with, and I think gave our parents those options that we wanted to give them. We also implemented a very robust mitigation plan for our district. Our distance learning plan was approved by the state of Arizona and ratified by the governing board. We began the year in distance learning, and we also implemented learning labs in August, 2 weeks into the school year. And those learning labs are going on as we speak. Now, during that first week of school, the Arizona Department of Education and ADHS came up with their recommendations for how we could safely return to in-person learning. And this was the first time that we saw any form of data to be used, but it was community data, to make a decision as to when we would leave our distance learning and go into what we are calling what we call our hybrid model. And there was an assumption based on at that time that community metrics and school metrics would be positively correlated to each other. In other words, if a community had low metrics, that schools would as well. We also, for the first time, saw this chart that we have, many of us have come to memorize, that labeled community metrics in a minimal, moderate, and substantial risk category. And that gave us the direction and recommendations for when we move back to hybrid. And one was that we had new case rates of less than 100 per 100,000 for 2 consecutive weeks, and that our percent positivity for 2 consecutive weeks was 7%, or was less than 7%. There was a third one on here, but at that point, that was not known as a reliable measure of, and so we did not include that. And what the board, what we decided to do, or the board decided to do, was is to use the first 2 metrics. And after 2 weeks, we had 2 consecutive weeks in the moderate category. We began our hybrid learning plan on October 12th. At that point, 72% of our teachers indicated that they preferred in person or were flexible with where they taught, and 45% of our students returned to in-person learning on October 12th. Now, going back to how do we get back to virtual learning? Well, the initial guidance from the county was that if one of our categories, specifically cases or percent positivity, were in the substantial range for 2 consecutive weeks, that we would move back to virtual learning. But then in late October, that guidance was revised to say that all 3 of the benchmarks needed to be in the substantial category for us to move back to virtual learning. And on November 12th, the governing board approved moving back to virtual learning if the cases and percent positivity were in the substantial range for 2 consecutive weeks. Again, the board decided not to use the COVID-like illness category or benchmark. those are the two we chose. And then we started to see the spike in our community, or the surge as it is known. In the data that was released on November 19th for the week of November 1st showed that we were back in the substantial range in cases and percent positivity. And we had a conversation with the county at that point, and they gave us a very strong indication that the data would not get any better the following week. And so we had a special governing board meeting on November 23rd, which approved the move to virtual learning starting on November 30th. And that is where we are right now. We are still in virtual learning. And by the way, in case you're wondering, that data that next week did come back, as Maricopa County indicated, and we ended up being in the red for 2 consecutive weeks. Also on November 12th, the governing board approved moving back to our hybrid model if our cases and percent positivity were in the moderate range for 2 consecutive weeks. And that continues to be the bar that the board has set for moving back to hybrid learning. Okay. So that's that's the path that we took from distance learning or virtual to hybrid back to virtual. We're going to switch gears here, and I have some data for you for the 6 weeks that we had in-person learning taking place on our campuses, all 9 campuses. During that time, you can see the cases and the percent positivity in the community. We had 38 total positive cases in the district during those 6 weeks. 34 positive cases were at our schools, among 16 staff and 18 students. And again, that was, we had 4,040 people. If everyone came to work in the school, that's how many people were on our campuses at that time. And we also had 4 positive staff cases here at the Levine Education Center. So if you're wondering, what did 6 weeks of learning on campus look like? That's the number of cases. I also wanted to show you that we don't have a strong correlation between the number of the cases per 100,000 in the community and the percent positivity and the number of cases that we saw on our campuses. As I said in the earlier slide, I think that there was a prediction. Again, this is 6 weeks of data, so it's not a whole year's worth of data, but we did not see necessarily a strong correlation. If you run the math on it, it's a weak correlation between the cases that we had on our campus and what was happening in the community. This is another way of looking at what I just discussed. It is a graph per day for 30 days of where we saw the cases. You can see that we have a yellow band that kind of goes through the middle, or that creates that higher peak. That was going back to that was an actual outbreak that occurred in Cache. That represented the highest number. That was 7 total individuals at one given time. You can see that the wave there are cases during those 6 weeks. So again, that's active cases versus date. And I would add, just so you know, that those numbers can be the same person going through their period of being ill, or having, within their isolation period. So, I also just wanted to show you what was the highest number of cases that we had at any given school at any given time, and that's where the red arrow is. So you can see the number of certified, classified, and students, the total number, and then how many cases we had at the highest, at the peak for that campus. And by the way, in case you don't notice, we never had any cases at Cheatham Elementary School during the 6 weeks. Also, we implemented, as the board approved, our mitigation strategies. And I'm not going to read through all of those for you, but they show themselves to be very effective. Two that I wanted to highlight for you is that we worked very hard with our Human Resources Department to add staffing. We added a position called Campus Cleaner. We expanded the hours of our IAs to provide class size reduction. And so we have spent a lot of money, and our staff has been awesome to pay our staff, and they have risen to the challenge. And so that really helped us through this process. Also, we worked very hard to take care of any staff that were at risk, and to take good care of our staff that was affected by COVID-19. Just so you know, we had 200 close contacts in the district during, a close contact would be a person that is near a person who has contracted COVID, and we only know of three situations where in those 6 weeks, among all the interactions, where we think that a transmission occurred on one of our campuses. And so, you know, that I think is a real positive, that our campuses were not the places that were spreading COVID. And this is just a summary of the data, and I put this up just so you could see, and again, this is for Levine Elementary School District only, so that you could see the surge and where we were in September and where we are now. We just got the numbers today for the first week of winter break. And this is reflected in the state of Arizona, obviously, which has one of the worst levels of COVID spread in not only the country, but in the world as of today. A version of this presentation was given to our staff. Much of what you just saw was given to our staff yesterday, and is still being distributed to our staff. And we have sent out a survey to our staff, and we are collecting data. The survey went out yesterday at 4 o'clock, and we have just about 600 as of the time we ran this data. Nancy ran this data. And so what I'm doing is giving you an initial look at the data, because I know that you're interested in what are our staff perceptions right now. And so one of the questions that we asked that I wanted to feature with you tonight is, what is the comfort level of our staff? And you really can't find a more evenly distributed piece of data than what we have here. We have 38%, 38.2% said not comfortable or slightly comfortable, and 38.6% said very comfortable or almost very comfortable. We gave them a 5-point scale to rate, and so we have staff that is very evenly divided about their comfort level of working and teaching during this time on campus in a hybrid model. And I also broke it down for you by classified versus certified, so that you could see that, again, they're pretty equal on the 4-5 or 1-2 and 4-5. We will continue to process this data. I did read through all comments today that teachers and classified staff and administrators put in, and some of the main themes that came out is that our community numbers are very, very high, and people are nervous about the how high the community numbers are right now. But almost all of them followed up with, if the community metrics get better, ready to go. And so, our staff is ready to go, but a lot of them want to see the community metrics improve. We did have staff that want to wait until the vaccine is distributed. That was another common theme. Another theme that came out through this survey was their sensitivity to students having to go back and forth between learning models and how challenging that is. As was read earlier in the public comment, we never have had a situation where a teacher is teaching in person and online at the same time. But we are moving between virtual and hybrid and back to virtual, and that they see that as being a challenge for their students. But I will also tell you, we have like an open the schools movement amongst our staff. And so we have people that are very concerned about the community metrics, but as you can see by our data, we also have many staff members that would like to see our schools reopen. So that's the initial take on our data. Just quick updates on where we are with Q3. We are obviously in virtual learning in K through 8. We did start special education, self-contained classes, and preschool classes in hybrid learning on January 4th. And our learning labs continue to operate. And just so you know, our learning labs have not generated positive cases. And so they have been a very safe place for our students. And those second two bullets, one of the things that I am happy about is our most vulnerable students are on campus right now. And keep that in mind as the board that we do have those students on campus right now. 50% of our staff are on campus as of today, and so we do have a lot of all our entire administrative team, classified staff, we have certified staff. Half of our staff is on campus and working every day. And I also wanted to remind the governing board that our students are in the classrooms that they would be in right now for whenever we move back to hybrid learning. So kind of going back to that concern, we're not, they're locked in with a teacher or teachers if they're, middle school for the third quarter. Actually, for the rest of the year. And we had a rise in the percent of student or parents or students that want to be in person when it went from 45 to 52%. Some recommendations for you, and we, I know we'll have a ton of discussion, but one is that we definitely continue virtual learning for at least the next 2 weeks, and that's pretty standard across the state right now. And when we return to hybrid learning, that we investigate possibly I recommend that we investigate a staggered return. Again, using this idea that we start with our most needy students, which our next stage would be our lower grade levels, and that we look at a staggered return. That we also, and we will develop metrics for schools rather than shutting the entire district or moving back to virtual learning for the entire district, that we look at it on a school by school or even a classroom by classroom basis and use those metrics in the future. Switching gears to the vaccine. I wanted to give you an update on where we are on the vaccine. It is a hour by hour developing matter right now. One, you can see the phases here in Maricopa County. Right now, the county is in phase 1A, and they are wrapping that up. That is for our healthcare workers, you can see emergency and long-term facility. And we are beginning to move towards 1B, which includes educators that work in K-12 schools. We just went to a webinar today with Maricopa County. I haven't even presented this to our administrators yet. It was just at 2 o'clock today. But we do know that our staff is aware that they may begin registering on January 11th for the available vaccinations that are left over essentially from phase 1A. They will go to the points of dispensary that the health care workers have been going to, but they do have unused vaccines now. And so our staff will be able to begin signing up on January 11th. They will have all the information. We do not know how many vaccines that's going to be. They did not give us that information, but it is not going to be enough to vaccinate all educators in Maricopa County. That means that we are going to be moving in the second bullet to what they call a closed pod system. Most likely, every indication that I'm seeing now and as of today is that we will be in a pod with Phoenix Union High School District. Most likely, our staff will have a day or two, probably two, where they will go to a high school and PUHSD and be vaccinated, and that will be how the process is finished. So we'd love to see as many of our staff be vaccinated in this, what's left over in 1A, but we're working to get the rest of, everybody else that isn't able in this initial run to be able to be vaccinated. And that second bullet is later in January. Okay, it will not be probably earlier than that, but in the 20s somewhere. But again, my disclaimer is, because it was their disclaimer in the presentation, that all of this is changing on a daily basis. The good news is our health associates and front office staff that work in our health health office were able to pursue the vaccine, and many of them have been vaccinated. So we're excited about our health associates being able to receive the vaccine. Just a few notes, all school employees are eligible, and everyone who makes a school operate can have the vaccine in 1B. It's not, you will hear things on the news that say teachers. No, that's not the case. It is any school-based employee. It is, and we recommended that eligible people take the vaccine, but I will tell you that no decision has been made by health authorities or by our district at this point about whether or not vaccines would be mandatory for our staff. And when I say that, I mean staff that are able to take the vaccine. And the same applies to students. And tonight, if you would like, after the meeting, I will be happy to stay around and give you my 45-minute, maybe an hour. It's a straight lecture, just me continuing to talk like I'm talking right now, nonstop, on how vaccines work. It's something I did back when I was a junior high teacher, and it's pretty exciting. So I'm happy to do that. One more switch of the gears. I wanted to present the board with our learning data because I think that puts this whole thing into perspective. And so so here's some of the details. All of our students take, all of our students take the NWEA assessment. And we started that assessment last year. And when they take the assessment, they receive a percentile rank score, which is where they rank in a norm group. Just like any of the other, classic tests that we've taken, you're going to get a percentile score. Well, mathematically, just in case you don't remember from your stats class, you can't average percentiles, but what you can do is find the student that is in the middle, the median student. And so what you're looking at here are last winter's median percentile scores. Okay, so our middle student in first grade was at the 50th percentile, which is right in the middle. That's, on a norm reference, it's not a bad place to be. We'd love to be on the other side of that, but, so what I'm going to do now is show you where our students are in winter 2020. So you can see we have been in virtual learning since March of last year. Don't look too, I'll try to explain the kindergarten in just a second, okay? This is not an argument to not have to just put all kindergartners on virtual. But you can see where we are in the exact same measure, in the exact same way as where we were last year. And that is concerning. And I'm not, this is not a reflection on the dedication of our staff. It is not. It is the circumstances that we are in. Our staff has done incredible work in a very challenging situation. But it does go to say the importance of us, going back to that first slide, having our students on campus as soon as it is safe to do so.
Dr. Sprout, I think that my screen doesn't show the key on the bottom, and I really want to make sure I understand this.
Yes.
The blue is where we are at currently.
Yes.
The gray is where we were at
Last year.
at the same time.
Correct.
Do I understand that correctly, Dr. Sprout?
Yes, ma'am.
Wow, okay.
Same assessment, same time, 1 year later.
Thank you, okay.
We, going back to the kindergarten, all I can say is we had the students who were at home, probably taking an assessment for their first time, did a lot better than those that were not. And so, is that a fair way to say it?
There's probably a temptation to help a little bit.
Yes.
I'll say it.
Yeah.
So, it's our first time taking a test, and so maybe a little bit of assistance was provided, and so that's the explanation there, and we saw that pretty consistently. And now, so that was, by the way, that was math, and we also do a reading and a language test as well, and here is the again, I would assume that every district, if they're looking at their data right now, is seeing the same thing. It's been nationally reported. So what are we doing? What are we doing to mitigate that? Well, one is we are continuing to work to give the best possible virtual online learning to our students. I look at the professional development options or trainings that we are doing, what our principals are doing, and with our teachers, our coaches, our academic services team, to continue to refine and improve our instruction. We are providing interventions during the school day. We are still analyzing our data to many of our PDs yesterday focused on data. We are starting to see we are seeing a disturbing trend with student attendance, and we are beginning to deal with that issue. Compared to this point last year, our attendance is not as good in a virtual learning environment. And then I've asked Kathy Davis, our Assistant Superintendent of Academic Services, to pull out all the stops with a group of, with her team, with a group of administrators and teacher leaders to what we're calling now a Learning Recovery Committee. So the board knows we have a lot of stimulus money that we can use. And so in the months ahead, a couple months ahead, you'll be hearing from me about some of the initiatives that we will be taking to help to recover the loss that we are seeing. You know, really, I think we need to be in the mentality that by May of 2021, we have pushed our student, you know, we have intervened and done everything we can to make sure that we have recovered what we have lost. So we're not just sitting here and taking it. We are working on plans, not only for instruction today, but leading into the future. And that's concludes the study session.
Thank you, Dr. Sprout. I do want to mention one thing with the data, that is going to be a trend in many of the districts. I know I closely work with data in Avondale, and we are seeing the same regression. And so there's a lot of challenges that everybody is facing with that right now. And so don't get discouraged, just keep at it. You have amazing teachers who have done an amazing job so far with the circumstances that they're in. So you just got to keep at it and just dig deep in that data, because there are celebrations. But it is hard. It's hard to chew, but just keep at it.
Dr. Sprout, thank you for all of that information. That was so comprehensive, but so necessary. Just even the reminders from all of the decisions and discussion that have occurred. You know, obviously the slide packing data shouldn't be a surprise yet. When you see it in front of you, it just is startling. I don't feel like that reflects the effort of our teachers at all. Reagan is getting a better education than ever, even, you know, when at home, the teachers, it is just an impossible situation for them. And I don't think anybody on this board is blaming them for where they are at. We just know we have some work to do, and that your team and Kathy Davis's team will work to plan and prepare and get our kids to where we need to be. But you know, you see the national data, you see the statewide data, but to see the data of our kids, these are our children here in Laveen. You know, it's just a little bit startling, and you know, I continue to believe that as soon as we can get them back into school and make sure that kids feel safe, that staff feel safe, that's going to be the best situation for our students.
Any questions, discussion that the board members have?
Yeah, from what I've heard is that what they found with the virtual learning is that it takes away that element of competition that kids have between themselves to push themselves. And that this is part of the factor that is missing. There's, you know, parents push, but it's not the same as competing with your peers.
Our teachers build a community. They build a community online. They build a community in person. We work very hard to create situations in what we call student-to-student interaction, giving students an opportunity to work with each other. We have you know, breakout rooms that we can do, and you know, and those are things that we have learned to do. But you know, the student-to-student interaction is crucial to learning. And again, our teachers have come through on that and learned a whole new skill set that they didn't imagine that they would be using a year ago today. And so we do, you know, I want to emphasize, we have the team, we have a great team. And we will continue to overcome challenges as a team.
What are we doing about absences?
Well, So we had a meeting with principals about that yesterday or Tuesday. We are definitely reaching out to parents. We are using our SROs to help with that. We are, a lot of it is, we're using our robocall system to notify them. And all of our schools are looking at new strategies. In fact, we're meeting in 2 weeks to talk about other effective plans. Our principals do a great job of collaborating with one another, but a lot of this boils down to, having that one-to-one, contacting that family. What we're really trying to push past though is if we contact a family and we don't hear back, or how are we going to handle it at that point? By the way, one other thing that we offer to parents, if their child is struggling with coming on, staying online, is to go to the Learning Lab. The Learning Lab is a great option for parents if they're worried that their child is maybe checking in at the beginning and then leaving the class. And by the way, some of our teachers put in, I've never been in this situation, but I understand that if you have to go to driver's school, they put like little, and it's virtual, they put in little questions and things that you have to watch the entire presentation. Not that I've done that, but I do understand, some of our teachers are putting those into the lesson. And so students know that they have to stay from the beginning to the end. And so there's some of the strategies. But it is definitely a topic of discussion, and we'll be meeting about it in 2 weeks again.
I can teach that practice.
I found from some parents that when the testing was going on, they felt the questions that were being asked, they had not been taught yet. And I felt like the parents, I had to explain to the parents that you have to test a range of information that includes stuff they have not been taught yet, because some students might know that and you get the, different ranges. But I don't know how we educate the parents with testing, like kindergarten parents helping their kids with math questions on a test, how we can prevent that and make them more comfortable administering a test that their child knows, doesn't even understand.
Yeah, no one wants to see their child struggle on an assessment. And the interesting thing, the thing about our assessment though is if you get a right answer, if you get an answer correct, you get a more difficult question the next time. And so it adjusts to the level of the student. And so, it creates a false sense of how the student's doing, and even the types of questions that we're asking, because it's going to keep getting harder and pretty soon you're going to be answering questions that, 1% of the kindergartners in the United States can answer. And so,
We have 64 of them.
So it is a test that adjusts to the students.
And I remember when I was teaching, explaining to students, if that question is too difficult, skip it and go on to questions you can answer. And, there are strategies that the teachers know to encourage the kids to continue through, but, our parents have not been taught how to do a test. It's too bad that they have to be the facilitators and the kids can't come in and take a test or something with the teacher.
Yeah, we are already in that, that is something that we are looking at. And in case, we have not had a cancellation of state testing yet. We don't know what's going to happen on that end, but that is required to be in person. And so we'll see what happens in the days and weeks ahead on that.
Mental health.
Are we making any kind of home visits, check on possibly families that we may have?
Yes, bottom line, yes. We have a great team of counselors and student services and our administrative teams that's part of their job, is to visit students' homes. I see it in their weekly updates, not only just to check on kids, but even to celebrate kids and to recognize students. But yes, home visits are a part of the job.
If they need something specific, we are working on getting them what they need.
Definitely, yes. I mean, our counselors are also kind of, you know, they work as social workers. We all do. You know, when we see a child in need, we will do everything we can to support that child.
And then my last question, and I should have known this already, but I don't. Explain to me, I love that the teachers are only teaching either virtually or in person. But if a child is exposed, or if a child is exposed to COVID and they have to do the 10-day quarantine, do they have to switch to a different teacher, or are they not getting any class?
They are treated as if they are an absent student, am I correct on that? And they receive work as they would if they were, you know, but they do not change teachers.
And there's no way for them to feeling 100% healthy to call in to do a virtual in that same class.
Right now, while everyone is virtual, they continue to watch the lesson, whether it's live or recorded.
Right.
When we are in hybrid and there are some kids in person but other kids online, if the student has to stay home. In the lower grades, they do stay home and get the assignments, but in our all of our grades where the kids are departmentalized, we have been able to let the kids join the online group. So, which is about half of our students. So it's not perfect.
I know, but you guys are, I'm just thinking of little things and you've already got it figured out.
Not all of it.
I'm just the did you remember ice person. Thank you.
I have a question about our learning lab. What percentage of our students can attend that?
100% of students can attend it. There's no restriction. I think we're averaging about 500 to 600 students per day right now, spread over 9 campuses.
And our teachers not using that as a tool for their students that are struggling in certain areas?
I'm sorry?
Is that something that our teachers are using to help the students that are struggling in certain areas?
No, the learning labs basically provide a safe place for students to go during the day, but the learning labs are not overseen by teachers, they're overseen by classified staff. And so students go to the learning lab with their laptop and they watch their regular class just as they would at home. Now that being said, if a teacher senses that a student would be better supported in a learning lab, they can recommend that the child go to the learning lab. And then you do have that, we have our
preset environment, so I'm just thinking even if like a week or two or something offer that and take some measurement, I think that's a great opportunity. Because a lot of times, you know, these parents have 4 or 5 kids in a home, it has to be an impossible task. But
yeah,
it's available. I looked at our number, I didn't think a whole lot of people were utilizing it like I think it could be, but you know, obviously there's other circumstances.
we work very hard to publicize it, and again, there's not a maximum number of students. Any student that needs a safe place and a place where they can be productive can come to the learning lab.
How are students handled that are getting speech help or specialized help? They're virtual, but do they have a special time for
We
that?
absolutely do. We have schedules for our students who receive speech and other services, and they can get that in person if they are on campus in Learning Lab, or if they're on campus in a self-contained classroom, and they can receive it virtually as well. So our therapists are quite adept at providing service in both environments for kids, depending on where they're at.
That's our executive.
Because usually they're a pull-out
Dr. Sprout, can I ask you, what do you need from the board tonight? Or what are we looking at for next steps to determine, frankly, whether or not we reopen and what a recommendation might be for that?
Yeah, once again, I think at this point, we want to wait for 2 weeks and see what the metrics look like, and then with the support that we would request is most likely not waiting until our next meeting to have another meeting and begin looking at making a transition to hybrid learning. But we do want to see what is happening in the next 2 weeks before we make that move.
Thank you. Yeah, that makes sense. Patience is not my middle name, but very close. But I would certainly be willing to wait a couple of weeks to see how this vaccine is taking effect. I feel like good grief, it must be 50% of the states already had this thing by now, but it's still making its way. So yeah, that makes sense. Thank you for clarifying that.
Well, I just want to thank you, Dr. Sprout, for putting all that together. A couple of thoughts that I have is that we have students who are in learning labs and we have not had any cases. It just kind of makes me think that we should start moving forward with having more kids in person. We see the benefit of them in person. And we have also seen how well all of our mitigation strategies in place have helped not have an outbreak, right? So I do really like the idea of a staggered method and looking at if when we do have more in-person learning happening to not, if we have an outbreak of any kind, that it is based on school by school or class by class instead of the whole entire district. So those would be some things that I would be interested in looking at. I do have a lot of friends and family that teach in multiple other states and they are in person and they have high numbers of cases that are happening, not within the schools, but maybe in their community. And so I think we need to be looking at those pieces as well and continue to look at the science of it. With that, is there any other additional comments or questions? All right. Thank you very much.